have we got here? The 23rd of December, almost no time to go at all. I'm just about starting to think about putting up my stocking by the fireplace in the hope that I get more than the usual lump of coal. Anyway, at least I've got a question. Right, here we go. Ooh, this one looks very unusual. You have an opportunity to get into the Tardis of Lard and travel through time and space. Where do you land and why? Gosh, well, that's an opportunity I didn't think I'd be getting today. If I'm honest, the first place I'd go is back to the world when I was young, and I'd drink in the pubs and bars that I used to drink in, and I'd drink with the people I used to drink with, and I'd talk to the people I knew then who are now dead, who served in the Second World War, and have the conversations with those people that I wished that I had had then, and recorded them so that information that has just been completely lost could somehow be saved. And then I'd find out where Oliver Reed was making his latest film, and I'd make a point of being there. And I always, as a young man, wanted to drink with Oliver Reed, and I never did. And much to my annoyance, a good friend of mine managed it. So I always felt I'd missed out there. But once I'd finished messing about in the dim, distant past, I'd get back in and probably have a bit of a hangover. So I'd set my coordinates for about 1865. And I'd want to go to the mess of a Prussian infantry regiment who had gone through the reforms of von Roon and who had fought in the war against the Danes in 1864. And little did they know were about to fight in the war in the following year against the Austrians. And I'd like to see how the Kriegspiel that they played in their officers' messes was played, and how the rules were interpreted, and I'd like to see what maps they used and what pieces they used, and just the wonder of seeing that original war game being used by the people that it was designed to be used for. And to see the Prussian army as it stood on the threshold of its greatness, and that time where Germany was about to be unified and transformed from that Middle European hodgepodge of micro-states through to being one great empire that lasted for such a short amount of time in the end. Probably for all the right reasons, but we won't go there. But the opportunity to see that genesis of wargaming, and to also see how it was applied and see how it was used. It would be interesting to see whether the talk in the mess was about potential war with Austria, and how they felt about the Drace needle gun, and how they felt about the modernisation of the Prussian artillery to use new Krupp rifle breech-loading pieces, because at that time they would have still had a mix of the new Krupps and the old 12-pounder smoothbores. And I think that would be hugely informative in terms of being able to see what they did to then inform me as to what we might be doing wrong today, and how we could use Kriegspiel for military purposes. And one of the things I always feel about the military is that modern armies tend to always use a war game to practice for the next event that is on their schedule, or that they anticipate being on their schedule. Whereas it's my belief that the Prussian army used it much more as a generic training aid to give people experience of command and experience of the transmission of instructions and orders. But I might be wrong, so it would be really interesting to see what happened when I went there. From there, I'd get back in the TARDIS and I'd set my coordinates for Rennes in France on the 4th of June 1944, where I'd like to attend the famous German war game that was so rudely interrupted by the Allied landings in Normandy. The one where Eric Marx, apparently representing what he thought would happen in Normandy, won the game, or at least put up a performance that was noteworthy and notable. And it would be interesting to see how the Prussian army of 1860 differed or was the same, the German army in 1944. And it would be, well, remarkable to sit at the table at dinner with the senior German officers and to try and read the mood of the room, to see what they thought was about to happen, to see what they thought about the V weapons that were being promised but hadn't quite arrived, to see what they thought about the future of the Third Reich and where they stood on it politically. It would be interesting to see who was culpable and who wasn't, and to just generally get a feel for that incredible moment in history where, once again, we stand on the threshold of something quite remarkable, where we see Europe about to be liberated from a power that can only be described as quintessentially evil. And to understand exactly what the machinations were and what the anticipations were of those senior German officers who were obliged to defend Festung Europa. So, where would I go from there? Well, the opportunity to go to the future is quite tempting, but on the other hand, I'm not sure I'd like what I would find there. I'm not sure I'd want to see what the future of wargaming was in 50 years' time, and I'm certainly not sure I'd want to see what the future of British pubs would be in 50 years' time, as I think I might be sadly disappointed. But maybe that's enough. Maybe my journey to look at those two key points in the world of Kriegspiel would be the opportunity really grasped and taken, with the possibility maybe of going back to the 1970s again, but not to a pub this time, but back to Sandhurst and to see Paddy Griffiths run his famous Operation Sea Lion Kriegspiel. I ran, or assisted Paddy run, Operation Kriegspiel for about 50 or 60 people at the Imperial War Museum several years before he died, and that was a remarkable opportunity to see him doing that with a bunch of civilians who really had no idea what they were in for. Wouldn't it be marvellous to have the opportunity to go and see that with the likes of Adolf Galland and hear the conversations, undoubtedly knowing Paddy over several bottles of very robust red, and listen to the equally robust opinions being shared by those giants of military history and that singular giant of wargaming.